By the way, speaking of people who need to talk to somebody besides the people that they're currently talking to, our friend Tony Khan has been on Twitter, and I know we've just done the AEW television, but this week on the Drive-Thru, we're going to be heavy with WWE content, biographies on Kane and Jerry Lawler, and if the incomparable face-off happens between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and whatever's going to happen on Raw Monday night, we'll have that. So let's get AEW's dirty laundry finished scrubbing. Tony has been melting down on Twitter over a variety of things, specifically people being critical of the television program and his various efforts at same. Am I correct in this?
I don't know what's causing it, but last night, as we are recording, Friday night, people started buzzing about Tony Khan's behavior on Twitter, and it doesn't... Again, I don't like to pick on Tony, but he doesn't do himself any favors. And this is another example.
He keeps giving us material.
I don't know why he thinks this is the appropriate way to deal with things, but it never seems like it works out the right way. He was on Twitter again last night over a series of things. I'll start with this one. Someone tweeted Dave Meltzer and said, "Are the wrestlers still taking care of their own car rentals and hotels, or is that covered? I thought the company only took care of flights. I could be mistaken." Dave responded, "Overseas it's taken care of. Domestic, they still pay for cars and hotels." Tony...
Yeah, well, now, by the way, was the company, was this in a chain where they were talking about AEW? Because WWE, that is a true statement. They do internationally, they don't domestically. But did Tony just jump in on this, or were they specifically talking about AEW?
To be fair, I'm not exactly sure what started this chain. I'm trying to look back, and I don't have it here. But Tony quote tweeted Dave's tweet and said, "That's false, Dave. Your statement's true about other companies, but doesn't apply at all to AEW. AEW invests millions of dollars every year on good quality hotel rooms and safe transport to take care of our wrestlers. It's a huge investment I make on hotels weekly. Hashtag AEW Rampage." So then, before you even go further though,
AEW Rampage, that pertains to the topic.
Someone responded quickly and just said, "Tony, Dave is hacked," because apparently Dave's Twitter got hacked. And then Tony responded, "That may be, but he wrote that before he got hacked. And tonight is Friday night, when I often correct the record on things I find to be inaccurate before AEW Rampage on TNT."
Oh, boy.
So this started things, and right away, we started hearing things.
Again, let's just make the point that WWE, that statement was correct. If I was a hacker on Dave Meltzer's Twitter account, would I write that thinking that was going to inflame people or anybody? I'm pretty sure he did write that, because it's technically, it's true about one company. If Tony wants to spend millions of dollars putting guys up at the goddamn Waldorf Astoria, then that's entirely up to him. Go ahead.
And again, to discuss this specific thing, because I think we talked about it on the show a long time ago, on multiple occasions we heard from people who knew, they saw the logs, how many people were being flown in and put up at these shows that weren't even used on the events. So in terms of spending millions of dollars on hotel and travel, we could talk about how much of that is well spent money and how much of that is just spent money.
Well, and you know what? Here, from somebody who spent a lot of time on the road, I hated it on the pay-per-views when the WWE would get the bug in their bonnet to put the guys up in nice places, because then you've got a situation where you're parking in the parking lot, you're walking 5 miles to your room, you're going through fucking, either in the old days, tons of fans in the lobby, or now security that looks like you're entering a goddamn restricted airspace. And it's $5 to tip anybody to fucking breathe on you. I just want the goddamn Hampton Inn where I can park at the door, come in, come out, get a pizza delivered, and go to the fucking building. Right? So I'm sure a lot of the young guys that have never had the experience of traveling and having shit paid for them. They love staying in fancy hotels, but after you've done it for 10 or 15 years, it's going to get fucking old.
And then I guess the person who originally started this was trying to say that Dave wasn't necessarily talking about AEW, he was talking about domestic wrestling. Tony Khan replied, "Really, Corey? You could have fooled me," because he said domestic wrestling companies in his tweet, and I own 2 of those.
Oh, geez.
Thank you for your totally unbiased thoughts. Then, earlier that night, he announced a big upcoming match, Kenny Omega versus El Hijo del Vikingo.
What?
He announced on Twitter...
The son of Vikingo?
The actual tweet is, "This Wednesday, March 22nd, Independence, Missouri, Wednesday night AEW Dynamite TBS Network Live. Dream match. Kenny Omega versus El Hijo del Vikingo. In a dream match that was postponed in 2021, Kenny Omega will finally go one-on-one with the amazing El Hijo del Vikingo live on TBS this Wednesday."
What kind of dream match is that, and what do you have to eat before you go to bed to have dreams like that?
I'm not exactly sure.
And people have been clamoring for this for 2 years now, eh?
Now, this is someone who, the fans who follow everything happening around the world have been excited about, because he's someone who does a lot of moves. He does a lot of, I'm not even trying to be funny. He does the best tumble salts you've ever seen out of any of these guys out there.
Hell, he did the best tumble salts.
But to the average fan, clearly, the average AEW fan who's not reading The Observer or something, they wouldn't know who he is. So I guess, and I may be wrong, and I think this is what I am picking up on, Tony started seeing some reaction from people saying, "Who? What is this match? We don't even know who this guy is. A dream match? We've never heard of this guy." So someone by the name of Lucha Blog tweeted at Tony and said, "You're not expected to know who everyone is. I know a lot of people, and there are still others I'm learning about every day. But also, if you have the time to type who and click post, you also have the time to Google. Posting who is just waving, 'I'm a goof, ignore me,' as a flag."
What?
So Tony responded to that. They aren't doing it to be genuine. A large percent of those replies aren't from real people. A lot of them are from accounts that, upon inspection, seem to only exist to question and rip AEW, and most of their other content seems to be a cover story to seems to be a cover story to justify the existence of these accounts. One of my favorite bits they do is when they claim they used to love AEW in the old days, but not anymore. Yet when you dig into their old posts, there's nothing positive on AEW ever. Yes, I'm sure you all used to be great fans, despite no evidence of that whatsoever.
So what he's saying here is, besides the fact that when people say, as we did, who? He's saying it's not legitimately saying, who is this fucking guy? It's part of a conspiracy. It's a plot to malign AEW, and he knows this because he, the owner, operator, founder, manipulator of AEW and Ring of Honor and fucking the Jacksonville Jaguars and his father's fucking Dizzy Whiz fucking franchise and whatever else he's got going on, also has the time to go back into individual fans' Twitter accounts who knock AEW and investigate them, or potentially he's having someone else in his employ spend their time going through fucking random people's Twitter that knocks the company to determine whether they ever liked it or not, and whether or not they may be part of this vast, stupid wing conspiracy.
A person on Twitter named Littman tweeted to Tony, or just tweeted, I guess, about this. "Has anyone ever been this perpetually online before?" To which Tony responded, "I've been online since the Grandstand Wrestling Forum on Dial-Up America Online. Hashtag AEW Rampage tonight."
I think the The questioner was talking about, has anybody ever just been on it 24 hours a fucking day and wouldn't shut up ever? And doesn't somebody have to sleep sometime? And couldn't somebody find other things to do with their time than what they're doing? And can you imagine Vince McMahon, or let's open it up, or Bill Watts, or Jerry Jarrett, or Ted Turner, or Jim Crockett, or anybody else that ever ran a fucking wrestling company, spending the time to ferret out these bots on Twitter themselves and comment on them?
And again, I don't think the people in that company who will tell people on the outside, for instance, me, that they're embarrassed by Tony's behavior when he does this kind of stuff. He's the boss of the company. He's he's part owner with his dad of this company. I don't know if any of them say that to him. I think it's the opposite. I think people like pat him on the back and, oh, you did a great job showing them on Twitter. But to a man, they all tell you they're embarrassed by it.
It's just, again, he does his actions and his comments and his public interaction with people give people, whether it be us or anybody else, the fodder to say he's a fucking confused, socially awkward rich kid that has collected a bunch of living action figures and can't fucking deal with the fact that he can't really do this on a big time basis that he always fantasized he could. And now he's stuck with when we talked about it, who would take the book if he got a booker? Who's there that could or would? He's stuck now, and he's going to have to fucking argue with people on Twitter about his goddamn, because he believes that people are as fixated and obsessed on this niche wrestling and these niche wrestling personalities and this fucking minutia that he's gathered in his mind with his group of equally obsessed people. And meanwhile, the other company is putting on WrestleMania with a guy saying, I want to win the title for my daddy.
We hear from people.
And that's as easy as it can be. Go ahead.
We hear from people in that company who like Tony Khan personally, and they'll tell you he's been childlike. He's getting more and more childish, more and more stubborn about things. He doesn't want to listen to people. And then you see this stuff on social media. Here's another one. Going back to this Kenny Omega match. This match was scheduled in 2021. It was highly anticipated. Due to Kenny's injuries, it was postponed. Now Kenny is back, and the match is Wednesday on Dynamite. Those who watch our show regularly also know Kenny's in a major story unfolding weekly that we should keep an eye on.
What would that be?
I guess the thing with him and Paige? I'm not even sure. I mean, here's the problem. Tony is not good at Twitter. And like his booking, he thinks he is. And my suspicion, based on everything I know and people I talk to, is that maybe people are afraid to tell Tony that he's not good at these things or that it's probably not a good look to do this, because he's not going to accept that. He looks for justification and he looks for excuses to justify things. But this is I hate to use bad look. He looks really bad doing this. He comes across really, really bad. And I don't think he sees that.
So you're saying that somebody in the company sooner or later is going to have to be the one to tell him that he can't buy Richard Pryor?
I don't think it would work. No, that's actually the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm saying if someone in that company said you can't go buy Richard Pryor, he would find a way to do it and justify it. And then he would go on Twitter to announce it. He shouldn't. I feel bad because, people think we pick on Tony. Again, I don't feel good about saying these things, but it's like he opens the door for himself. He's just
and then he slams it on his own foot.
He's just not good at this. He's not good at this.
Well, I know what you're good at. And that's the programming over at the 605 Arcadian Vanguard and Wrestling News Production Networks. What are you doing this week, young Brian?
Another action-packed week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcasts or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. A few notes, of course, get the wrestling news at thewrestlingnews.com or subscribe to Arcadian Vanguard's The Wrestling News, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Free daily wrestling news update every single day. Get all that's happening in the world of wrestling for free from The Wrestling News. A lot more to come. We just went past 200 episodes. Subscribe today. The Wrestling News. Want to make mention of this week's episode of Breaking Kayfabe with Baldwin and Barry? Vandal Drummond, Kurt Brown himself, stops by and they discuss Gordman and Goliath versus Chavo Guerrero and Roddy Piper, the Masked Canadian in Los Angeles. Check that out today at baldwinpod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Ooh, I felt that in my shoulder. Go through the archive today at 605pod.com. Hope I didn't bust this open. Wherever you find your favorite podcasts, The Mothership.
Are you bleeding or dripping or something? Anything that, you need to take care of before we finish the program?
Probably, but let's finish this program.
All right. Well, what's a little blood among friends?